This video will contain the control panel overview. We will now show you the main screen overview on the GS6000. On the left-hand side of the control panel you will find the power button. Located just directly to the right of that is the pause or the reset button for the GS6000. During printing, simply by depressing the button once, this will pause the GS6000. By simply depressing the button again, the GS6000 will resume printing. Holding the button down for 3 seconds, this will reset any print job that was sent to the GS. To the right of the pause button, we have our ink out or paper out light. There is also an in feed and an out feed paper button located on the panel. And the left button controls our temperature. Simply by depressing the button, this will activate the first heater, which is the preheater. Adjusting the heaters from the home screen will change the heat settings for the current job only. After adjusting the heaters, simply give the printer a few seconds and it will exit the heat adjustment mode. Or tap the pause button to get back to the ready mode. Pressing this button will allow you to access the menu. By holding the button down for 3 seconds, this will initiate a cleaning cycle on the GS. While printing, if you notice nozzles out, you can press and hold this button for 3 seconds. The printer will pause while printing, and it will do a light cleaning. Now we will show you a close-up view of the LCD screen. At the top left of this screen, this indicates the status of the GS6000, whether the machine is ready, cleaning, or printing. Below this are the indicators for the current cartridge levels. To the right of this is the indicator for the paper setup that we are currently using. Below this is the current setting for the platen gap in a high or low position. By moving the platen gap lever on the side of the GS6000 printhead, this will change the indicator on the LCD screen. In the lower right hand corner, this displays our current temperatures for our default paper setting in our pre, platen, and post heater. With the media lever in the release position, we can use the in-feed and out-feed paper buttons to adjust our suction. We could increase or decrease the suction depending on the thickness or the variety of media that we are currently going to use. Located on the top of the GS6000 is our warning lamp. Any status warnings will be indicated by this lamp. Now we will show you the main printer functions and the overall printer settings. By selecting the menu button, this will bring us into our first menu, which is Printer Setup. The first menu we can access from the Printer Setup menu is the side margin. The minimum margin is 2/10 of an inch. We can increase the margin or decrease the margin back down to 2/10 of an inch. The next menu is the paper size check. We can toggle the paper size check on or off. However, I do not recommend setting it to off. With the size check on, the GS6000 printhead will come out and actually measure the width and the edge of the media. The next menu is the skew check menu. We can toggle the skew check on or off. The skew check will check to see if the media is straight when it's loaded into the GS. This is shown here. When the GS comes out and measures the edge and measures the width of the media, it is also checking the lead edge of the media. The next function is the print nozzle pattern. When you select nozzle check, this will allow you to print a nozzle check pattern during printing. There are options of off, every 10 pages, or every page. These options will tell the GS6000 when to print the pattern. With this pattern, we will look for any nozzle clogs or any nozzle deflections. The next function is heating time. Our heating time is going to tell the GS how long to keep the heaters on when the printer is in idle mode. By default, this is set at 30 minutes, and we can increase this time so the heaters do not cool off in between each job. Increasing the time prevents the GS from shutting off the heaters based on this interval. The next function is flush onto paper. With this function on, it will print the excess ink onto the outside edge of the media. With this function off, it will flush all the excess ink into the waste pad. Here is an example of flush onto paper with the function on. We can take a closer look and we can see that the GS is printing a flushing line onto the edge of the media. It will print a flushing line both on the left and the right side of the media. Next is flushing frequency. By default, this is set at 5 pass. We could increase or decrease the amount of flushing that the GS6000 will do for the excess ink. The next menu is the paper origin setup. By default, the paper origin is set to 0. This basically dictates where the GS6000 believes the center of the media is. The next option is take-up reel. We have an option of on or off. Please note that this does not control the actual take-up reel itself, but whether media can be in-fed back into the machine. So for example, if media is located on the take-up reel, we would want the take-up reel function in the on position. This will allow media to be fed down, but will not allow media to be fed back into the printer. With the take-up reel function in the off position, this allows us to outfeed media as well as infeed media. Again, just as a reminder, you do not want the take-up reel function in the off position when you are using the take-up reel. The next function in the printer setup menu is the head fan. Inside head fan we have an option of on or off. This controls the fans that will keep the head cool because of the platen heaters. The next function is regular cleaning. This will dictate the frequency that the GS6000 will auto-clean itself. It is recommended that if your GS6000 is not in full production use, the regular cleaning cycle should be set to a short duration, where if the GS6000 is in a high production environment, it is possible to turn the regular cleaning cycle to a higher interval so the GS6000 does not clean as much. And the last menu in the printer setup menu is initialize settings, which will take all factory settings and restore them. The next menu function of the GS is the paper setup menu. In this menu, we have paper setup and paper type. Inside paper type, we can select the number of the custom media that we've assigned to a specific media. The next portion of the video, we will show you how to set the current media type and custom media settings. In order to set up a custom media, we first need to go into our paper setup menu, select the paper type that we want to use for our custom media, and then enter the setup for that custom media. As shown earlier, whichever media we choose in the paper type shows up in our LCD screen. Now that we've set the custom media type that we want to use, we can enter the paper setup for that corresponding media. Inside paper setup, we'll find different options for the custom media: print mode, paper feed adjust, head alignment, preheater settings, platen heater settings, our microwave adjustment, paper suction, drying time, carriage movement, and printing multiple layers. When we are setting up a custom media for the GS6000, we need to enter our paper setup menu and the paper number and address all the functions that we just covered. The first step in this process is to set our heater controls for the custom media that we're working with. We're first going to start with our preheater and set our default temperature. Once completed, hit the OK button to save this setting. Next, move to your platen heater. Enter the menu, increase or decrease the temperature to the desired value, and we are finished. Hit the OK button to set that value. Last is the after heater. Increase or decrease the temperature to the desired setting, and then press the OK button to accept this change. Doing this first allows us to make the changes on the media at the desired default temperature. The next step in this process is to navigate back to the paper feed adjustment menu. We will find two options in this menu. The first option is the line feed adjustment. It is preferred that you do a 500 millimeter test. This will print out a test chart on the GS6000 at a 500 millimeter interval. We will now measure this test with an accurate millimeter ruler to check the distance between our two marks. The reason for this is we need to make sure that the GS6000 is feeding the media properly on both sides of the machine. We also recommend that you average the results on the left and right side of this test. This will allow us to compensate for the media changes that occur when the media is actually heated. By placing the ruler on the targets and measuring the distance, we will be able to see if the media has stretched or shrunk based on the heater settings. In this instance, we will write down the exact value that we got from this measurement. We can now go back to the control panel and enter in the exact value that we just measured off the target. This will ensure that we have an accurate measurement when the GS6000 is actually printing. The second option in the paper feed adjust menu is the print sample pattern. We hit OK to execute the print sample pattern. The GS6000 will automatically print a print sample chart. There will be 5 different values for this chart. What we are looking for in this chart is the cleanest pattern for the microweave. Once we pick the cleanest pattern, the GS6000 will now wait for us to enter the value that we feel is the correct one. The print sample pattern is the micro adjustment for paper feed. The next step in this process is to enter the head alignment menu. Once we select by the all and then OK to print, the GS6000 will automatically print a head alignment chart. The GS6000 will print head alignment charts across the width of the media. As an example, on a 64-inch roll of media, the GS6000 will print 3 head alignment patterns across the width of the 64-inch media. It will also print 3 patterns down the media, no matter what size the media is. Across the width of the media, we want to average the results. For the 3 tests that step down the media, we are looking for the straightest value in between the crosshairs. Once we find the straightest value, we will go back to the control panel and enter the value for each test that we think is the straightest. Once you adjust for the first value, press the OK button to move to the second test. Adjust the value, press OK to move to the third test. If the value for this test is other than a 3, 4, or a 5, we would suggest that you rerun the test to achieve the optimum value of 4. Once you have completed the custom paper setup, you can enter paper type, change the value to number 2, and start creating a second custom media type. Now we will give you an overview and an explanation of each function inside the maintenance menu. To enter the maintenance menu, simply press the menu button and navigate down to maintenance. Inside maintenance, there are different levels of cleaning, a head washing function, and a carriage maintenance function. To perform a cleaning cycle, simply select the cleaning cycle that you would like, enter that cleaning cycle, and hit OK to execute it. Now we will cover the test print menu and give you an overview and an explanation of each function. The first option in the test print menu is nozzle check. When we select nozzle check and hit enter to print, the GS6000 will print a nozzle check pattern onto our media. As stated earlier, we'll want to evaluate this pattern for any gaps or deflections in the nozzle pattern. The next test print that we can do is the status check. The status check will print out the life counters on the machine, as well as any of the ink cartridge values and maintenance tank values. It will also print the serial number, firmware status version, and heater firmware versions. The next option in the test print menu is the network status sheet. Once we select OK to print the network status sheet, the GS6000 will automatically print all the different network settings that are set on the Gigabit Ethernet card that is built into the GS. It will give you all the TCP/IP, subnet mask, gateway, DNS settings, Bonjour settings, or DHCP settings. The next option in the test print menu is the job information. Once we execute the job information test print, the GS6000 will automatically print job information for the last 9 jobs that were performed on the GS. It will contain information on each individual ink cartridge that is in the machine and how many milliliters per the 1/10 of a milliliter were used for that specific job. It will also print out the width and height of the media that was used for a specific job. The last option is the custom paper test print. This test will print all the specific settings that you have set for all the different custom medias that you've created on the GS6000. Now we will give you an overview and an explanation of the printer status menu. To enter the printer status menu, simply hit Menu, navigate down to Printer Status, and then enter that menu. When entering the printer status menu, the first option that will come to is the firmware version. The second option is the number of printable pages. The third option is ink levels. We can get the individual ink levels that is measured in percentages for each individual color. Simply by hitting the up or down arrow button, we can navigate through and see the different percentages that are in each individual cartridge. The fourth option is usage count. This will display a total ink and a total media count. The fifth option will be clear usage count. We could actually clear the counters back to 0. The sixth option is job history. We could individually go through the last 9 jobs that were done on the GS6000 and get a total square footage and ink milliliter count. The last option in this menu is total prints. This tells you the exact amount of jobs that have actually gone through the machine. These are all the options in the printer status menu. Now we will give you an overview and an explanation of the network setup menu. To set the network settings from the printer control panel, go into the network setup menu. By selecting Enable, you are now able to adjust the network settings directly from the control panel. This will give you the options to set IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, Bonjour, and other network settings. While these settings can be made from the LCD menu, it is recommended that you leave the setting set to disable and adjust all of these settings from the Epson Net configuration utility on an attached computer, as it is much easier and has more features.